Tonight, economic turbulence as the Bank of Canada cuts the key interest rate. Why now?
I had to double my withdrawal from my RSP.
And how it will impact your loans. A royal red carpet welcome for Donald Trump.
It is remarkable to think just how far we have come.
The largest ever honor guard in living memory.
To coin the phrase special relationship, but seen from American eyes, the word special does not begin to do it justice.
Plus, how protests threaten to overshadow the pomp and pageantry of a state visit. And the latest late-night show casualty. Why Jimmy Kimmel has been yanked from the air, and who else the U.S. president wants gone.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening. The economic storms millions of Canadians are currently confronting show no signs of easing anytime soon. That was the message today from Canada's central bank, which cut its key interest rate for the first time in 6 months. From 2.75% down to 2.5%. We'll get to what it could mean for your mortgage and car payment in just a moment, but we begin with CTV's senior political correspondent Michael Couture on what triggered the rate reduction.
Tariffs are weakening the Canadian economy.
Canada's central banker couldn't be more blunt. As exports dropped by 27% in the second quarter of this year and inflation rose by 1.9%, Tiff Macklem and his team decided it was best to lower interest rates.
Canadians remain concerned about the cost of living, and our primary mandate is to maintain low, stable inflation, and we are very focused on that.
Canada's GDP declined by 1.6% in the second quarter, and some forecasts have the rest of the year looking flat, leading some economists to use the R word.
The term is technical recession, where there's two negative quarters. Well, certainly we're pretty well there. The third quarter, it's going to be flat at best.
The central bank disagrees, predicting modest growth in the second half of the year. But Macklem says that could change depending on what comes from the U.S.
Where there's a significant escalation of tariffs, U.S. tariffs, in that scenario, the Canadian economy does go into recession.
The effects of the trade war are also being felt in the U.S., where job gains have slowed and inflation ticked up. It's why the U.S. Federal Reserve recommended cutting its interest rate by 25 basis points on Wednesday. And while the decisions in each country are made independently, it does provide some perspective.
You know, we talk about we got a big deficit of debt. Well, theirs is way bigger than ours are.
The Bank of Canada's next rate decision is in October, but it's unclear if there will be another cut then. With the federal budget expected November 4th, Macklem could wait to see the scope of government spending before cutting the interest rate again. Omar?
All right, Mike, thank you. It did not take long for the major banks to respond. Canada's Big Five lowering their prime lending rates by 25 basis points to 4.70% effective tomorrow. CTV's Heather Wright on what that means for you.
Roughly 1 million Canadians are renewing their mortgages this year, including Elias Eid.
Another quarter point is good.
Eid last renewed his mortgage 2 years ago when the Bank of Canada's overnight rate was 5%. His monthly payments went from $2,000 to $3,600.
I had to double my withdrawal from my RSP to be able to cover the mortgage and the property taxes.
Eid expects to save a few $100s a month when he renews his mortgage in November. But despite today's cut, many other Canadians are bracing for significant increases to their monthly payments. According to the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, roughly 85% of mortgages up for renewal this year were taken out when the Bank of Canada's interest rate was at or below 1%.
The extent to which this will translate into a reduction in mortgage rates, I think that's kind of muted, but it's going in the right direction.
The cut will also help anyone with a line of credit or those looking to finance large ticket items like a car.
This is going to give families just a little bit of extra borrowing capacity and really help to drive consumer spending forward again.
But many consumers are wary. Shannon Strongman is looking to buy a house but expects any mortgage savings to be canceled out by the high cost of living.
Are we going to see much of a difference? Maybe not. Well, this rate cut is good news for households. The Bank of Canada did acknowledge the significant headwinds in the economy, including a weak job market, with the unemployment rate rising significantly since January. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
In a one-on-one with our chief financial correspondent, Amanda Lang, the Bank of Canada governor talked about the current push to look for customers outside of the United States.
These new tariffs, the unpredictability of our relationship with the United States, I think is underscored for businesses is, yes, they need to look for new markets. It's been very easy to export to the United States. It's gotten a lot harder.
And Amanda joins us now. Amanda, today's cut is meant to add some gas to stimulate a weak economy. But as Heather mentioned, unemployment is high outside of the pandemic, the highest it's been since 2016. Exports are also down. Business investment is weak. What did Tiff Macklem tell you about how to turn all this around?
Omar, it was clear from what the central bank said today that the damage from a trade war is taking precedent over the risk of inflation. But something to note, Tiff Macklem said today that as Canadian businesses work to mitigate the effects of that trade war, they'll look for new markets, they'll look for new suppliers, and that in itself will be inflationary. It's higher cost, and ultimately those costs will be passed on, it could be, to Canadian consumers. Job number one for the central bank is that our federal government works out the trade situation. That, of course, is not in our central bank's control. On the issues of affordability, the bank's aware that as it lowers rates, it will make some prices more affordable, but that the big structural reforms our economy might need right now, including things like building more houses or some of those big infrastructure projects that could actually create the conditions for growth, those come from a federal budget, not from our central bank. Omar?
All right, Amanda, thank you for this tonight. The Prime Minister is heading to Mexico tomorrow with the goal of expanding trade ties. And today, the third partner in the North American Trade Pact, the U.S., announced it has started a consultation process ahead of a mandatory review of CUSMA next year.
Not the best deal of anyone right now.
85% of trade between Canada and the United States remains free for now, but the agreement has to be revisited next June. The U.S. Trade Office has served notice that it has started public consultations on CUSMA. It wants input on strengthening U.S. competitiveness, productivity, and technology. We also learned today that 3 Trudeau-era cabinet ministers are expected to receive diplomatic appointments. Former Defense Minister and current Ontario MP Bill Blair, David Lametti, former Justice Minister and current Principal Secretary to Mark Carney, and former Energy Minister and current BC MP Jonathan Wilkinson. The news coming a day after Chrystia Freeland resigned as Transport Minister to become an envoy to Ukraine. And joining us now is our chief political correspondent, Vashi Kapelas. Vashi, lots to keep track of. What are you learning about these diplomatic posts and the prospect of any upcoming by-elections?
Hi, Omar. I'll start off by telling you where everybody is going. So we do know that former Public Safety and Defense Minister Bill Blair is headed to the UK to replace Ralph Goodale as High Commissioner. Jonathan Wilkinson has been offered the post of Canadian Ambassador to the EU in Brussels. He's still mulling that over. And David Lametti, who used to be the Justice Minister, who now serves as the Principal Secretary to Mark Carney just since July, he will be headed for a diplomatic post that could be at the UN. 2 sources are telling me that's where he will likely end up. All in all, it allows this government to delineate itself from the previous one, something politically that they certainly want to do, but it carries with it a risk as well, and that's what you mentioned, the prospect of by-elections in a number of fairly contentious ridings. Nothing is a guarantee for this government. They don't know Liberals will win those seats, but apparently it's a risk, a political risk at least, that the Prime Minister is willing to take. Omar?
All right, Vashi, thank you. Overseas, the Royals rolled out the red carpet for U.S. President Donald Trump on his historic second state visit. Trump and First Lady Melania spent the day at Windsor Castle before a lavish state banquet hosted by the King. But as CTV's Joy Malbon reports, as guests were raising their glasses, many were raising their voices against the visit.
From the roar overhead to the royal red carpet rollout, the U.S. President and First Lady arrived to a spectacular welcome, greeted by the young royals King Charles and Queen Camilla, pulling out all the stops for an unprecedented second state visit by an American president. Designed to dazzle Donald Trump, a great admirer of the late Queen and royal family. With pageantry marked by full military honors, a stunning parade of British Royal Guards, and all of this taking place inside Windsor Castle for security. And to avoid this,
Donald Trump, you can't hide!
tens of thousands of protesters in London and Windsor. Outraged over what they call Trump's divisive policies from immigration, Gaza to Ukraine, and angry that Trump is being given the royal treatment.
He's a convicted felon, criminal sex offender. That is almost humiliating.
Projecting images of the president and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, the scandal even here rearing its head. But inside there was glitz and glamour, tiaras and tails at a lavish banquet, King Charles praising his guest of honor, toasting their shared history and deep ties between two nations, and thanking the president for seeking peace.
Tyranny once again threatens Europe. We and our allies stand together in support of Ukraine.
A not-so-subtle message to Trump, who vowed to end the war but has yet to come down hard on Russia. Clearly pleased with the highest honor of his life, the American president mostly stuck to the script.
To coin the phrase special relationship, but seen from American eyes, the word special does not begin to do it justice.
After a feel-good day of pomp and pageantry, tomorrow it's politics. From trade deals to tariffs and solidarity for Ukraine, the special relationship between the U.S. and the U.K. will be tested. And all of this in just 48 hours. Omar?
All right, Joy, thank you. Walt Disney-owned ABC has pulled the late-night talk show Jimmy Kimmel Live indefinitely after comments made in the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
Kimmel also mocked Trump's warning of the conservative activist on Monday's show. Today, Brendan Carr, the Trump-appointed chair of the FCC, the U.S. broadcast regulator, urged local broadcasters to stop airing the show.
You know, when you look at the conduct that has taken place by Jimmy Kimmel, it appears to be some of the sickest conduct possible.
Also today, Nexstar Media Group, a large local TV and media company in the U.S., said it would stop airing the show on 32 ABC affiliates, calling Kimmel's comments offensive and insensitive. All of this following the July cancellation of CBS's The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, another Trump critic. The company said it was for financial reasons. Late tonight, Trump calling the move great news for America and offering congratulations to ABC, and also goading NBC to take similar actions with their late-night hosts, Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers, whom he described as, quote, two total losers. A Nova Scotia senior who was once a swim instructor at a correctional youth center has been arrested and is facing 66 sexual assault charges. And as CTV's Paul Hollingsworth reports, the number of victims could be in the hundreds.
On Saturday, September 13th, 75-year-old Donald Douglas Williams was safely arrested at his home in Dartmouth.
According to the RCMP, Donald Douglas Williams was a swim instructor at the Nova Scotia Youth Centre from 1988 until 2017. 66 charges against Williams related to 30 alleged victims were announced at an emotional news conference.
3 counts of sexual assault causing bodily harm. 28 counts of sexual assault, 32 counts of sexual exploitation, 1 count of sexual interference, 1 count of invitation to sexual touching, and 1 count of assault.
Williams was arrested following a multi-year investigation called Operation Headwind.
Our investigators, who were assigned to Operation Headwind because of their extensive experience investigating sexual offenses, have interviewed hundreds of survivors across Canada.
The RCMP believe there are more survivors, and they say it's not too late to report what happened. They allege the number of sexual assault survivors could be as many as 300 between the ages of 12 and 18.
Over almost a 30-year period.
Williams has been released and will appear in provincial court on September 26th. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
Genetic testing has given Montreal police the break they needed to solve a 17-year-old cold case. Here's CTV's Quebec Bureau Chief Geneviève Beauchemin.
The unsolved murder of Catherine Daviau in 2008 was one of Quebec's highest-profile cold cases, frustrating investigators for nearly 2 decades, until now.
The murderer was
Jacques Bolduc. Bolduc was a career criminal with a long record of car thefts, attempted murders, who died in prison 4 years ago. He was a stranger to Davio and was never a suspect until the forensic lab got a hit using genetic genealogy, matching DNA found at the scene to a sample from a distant relative in a public bank.
The interesting match that we got for this case was in fall 2024. We did the genealogy, our genealogist did the research, and then we were able to provide the investigators with a name.
Investigators then used that lead to piece together what happened. Here's what they now know. Davio had placed an ad online to sell her car. Her murderer, Bolduc, was on parole at the time. He answered the ad. That's the link. And on December 11th, 2008, he killed her, then set fire to her apartment and fled. Neighbors called 911 to report smoke, and first responders found her body and no sign of forced entry. Davio's family once said she was loved by all. Investigators told them today the case is now closed.
It was a big day for the investigator and the family.
Investigators here in Montreal say they've used these techniques to solve cold cases, but they intend to use them in current cases too. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Montreal.
Coming up. The surprising ingredient being used to fireproof homes in BC. New findings today by Environment Canada on this summer's extreme heat.
We see that the most extreme events have the biggest change in frequency because of climate change.
The agency says this summer has been the 11th warmest on record. It says in recent years, heat waves have become more likely and more severe because of human-caused climate change. Atlantic Canada broke several heat records, while in many parts of the country it was drier summer than usual, with hot spells followed by cooler than normal temperatures.
Victoria is about 250 kilometers, if I remember correctly, from Mount St. Helens.
45-year-old volcanic ash rained down on Victoria. The U.S. Geological Society says a freak windstorm near Mount St. Helens in Washington state stirred up the ash from the famed 1980 eruption. There's a new tool for residents in the fight against wildfires in BC. It's a little-known natural building material that's fireproofing homes. Here's CTV's BC Bureau Chief Andrew Johnson.
Inside this home being built in Lumbee, BC, some of the sights and sounds of construction are what you'd expect, others not so much. The wood frame is being encased in what's being mixed outside. Not concrete, hempcrete.
This first originated out of Europe. They've been building with hempcrete for generations.
Stuffed inside the extra thick walls of this place is something called hemp mash. It's a mixture of hemp, lime, and water.
It replaces drywall and insulation. On the outside of the house, a coating that acts as armor in the event of a wildfire.
As you can see, we're shooting a very hot flame at this.
He says the lime material can endure flames for more than 2 hours, part of a fire-resistant shell that also includes a metal roof and metal-clad windows.
When a wildfire happens to pass through this property, it has a very good chance of surviving.
The owner, Kathy Haslett, figures she's paying about a 15% premium over standard construction and thinks it's worth every penny.
What are you saving? You're saving a ton. If a fire comes through, it doesn't burn. You're not losing your home and everything in it.
The hempcrete also absorbs a significant amount of carbon and is expected to last 100 years. It's most commonly used in Europe. The designer of this home says the biggest obstacle in Canada is awareness.
If people don't know that it's an option, they can't choose it. What I love about it so much is that it's a material that is healthy for both people and planet.
Kathy's hoping to move into this place before Christmas, and the builders hope this is just the beginning of big demand for hempcrete in a region where the threat of wildfires is a yearly reality. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Lumbee, BC.
Still ahead, why a Canadian curling icon is leaving the ice. Canadian curling great Brad Gushue is calling it a career at the end of the season.
this will be my final year in competitive curling. For me, this is about my family and my team. My wife and daughters are important to me, and I've missed enough milestones to know I don't want to miss any more. For my team, your commitment, friendship, and drive are what made all this possible for me.
The 45-year-old skip from St. John's has won 2 Olympic medals, 5 World Championship medals, and is also a 6-time Brier champion.
I went over to the table and I thought, holy smokes, that looks like a bomb.
And a shocking discovery by a volunteer prepping for a rummage sale in rural Manitoba. She called police, sparking an evacuation of the area. The Canadian Armed Forces Bomb Disposal Unit was called in to safely remove an old military practice bomb that produces smoke when it hits the ground. Still ahead, how a game-changing procedure is giving a better life to those with spinal cord injuries. A groundbreaking implant is transforming the lives of spinal cord injury patients by addressing a common yet serious complication, unstable blood pressure. CTV's Kathy Lee now on the Alberta man who says it changed his life.
3 years ago, a car crash stole Cody Krebs' ability to walk.
A semi-truck blew a stop sign and T-boned me. That resulted in me breaking my neck.
But through the challenges, his partner Kiana, always present with unyielding devotion.
She's the strongest person that I know. Yeah, without her, I wouldn't be near where I am now.
In this moment, the 32-year-old's life much improved thanks to a new device implanted in his spine that helps to regulate his blood pressure. The inability to do that, a common problem for patients with spinal cord injuries.
This is because the spinal cord is disconnected from the brain, which is responsible for controlling blood pressure.
I got really lightheaded and dizzy, and my ears can start ringing.
The breakthrough technology used in a clinical trial Krebs was part of. The research, led by teams from several universities worldwide, including the University of Calgary.
It delivers a low electrical current to the spinal cord and basically replaces the signal that the brain would normally give to the body to control the blood pressure.
The implant has American Health Agency, the FDA, approval for another trial involving 20 research centers across Canada, Europe, and the United States. For Krebs, it's been life-changing.
It's helped me kind of get back into work and stuff too, because I'm not exhausted all the time.
With more energy, that means he can start to focus on figuring out life again.
Take it day by day, I guess.
With his biggest support by his side. Kathy Lee, CTV News, Calgary.
Incredible. And that's a snapshot of this Wednesday. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Good night and see you tomorrow.